So I'm back home. I am very happy to be back home. I am still a little jet lagged. Well, a lot jet lagged. Uh, so I'm still trying to get over that. Um, but I had a great time. There were some things that didn't go as smoothly as I'd hoped, but it was all fine. I had a great time. I went to see a whole bunch of museums. I went to the National Museum of Catalonia. That was absolutely gorgeous. It was gorgeous. And if you're a teacher, you get in for free. They also, I think they allow you to get in for free if you're in the service industry, public service industry. It was really great. It was really fun, and I the art, the the different types of uh, things that I got to see was absolutely beautiful. So it's a really lovely museum. But I am happy to be home and back to school, back to work. I return back to work next week. So I just wanted to go over a few things to sort of start the year off. And you can do this in college if you're a college teacher, middle school, high school. But it's important to get to know your students, develop a rapport with them. Find out what they like, find out what they don't like. I always like to do a little intake survey, and it could be very casual. It could be like write up one page on what you want to get out of this class, what are the rules you want to see in place, and policies and so forth, and then begin negotiating with them. Much of school, much of teaching is negotiation. That's what I believe, and that's what I've been taught by very good universities. Negotiate with your students on how to sort of handle things, how to go about things. Um, Students like structure. They don't like chaos, for the most part. They like to be able to have a classroom where they can learn, and I always like to make sure I establish the rapport, get to know my students, what they like, what they don't like, and then go over policies and procedures and sort of talk about them. What do they want to see in the classroom? What do they don't want to see? What are some of the rules that we can be flexible on? So, for example, I don't allow my students to eat in my classroom. I don't allow them to snack, unless they have to. Unless it's something that is part of their. If it's something that I have to allow them, then yes, of course. But I don't generally allow them to eat in my classroom because my classroom is a computer lab as well. And these computers are very expensive, so if they get things on the computer, we have to replace it. It costs a lot of money, and I really don't want to go over. I don't want to have to deal with that because I have to file the report with the district and say, look, this particular, this computer is not working for whatever reason, and we have to replace it, or the keyboard's not working because something got on it or whatnot. So I really don't allow them to eat in my classroom, but I do allow them to drink water, or any type of drink, like a soda, something appropriate, obviously. But as long as it's in a spill-proof container, and it's something that if it spills, it won't get on the computers. So I do allow that. But go over those policies, go over those procedures, go over all of the things that you want to cover for the year. I would even go over the curriculum. Okay, so this is the curriculum we're going to do. These are the options we're going to have. Ask them which type of stories or which types of poems do you want to learn about that are within the standards, obviously. But go over all of that. What are your plans for the year? You know, how how are they going to come to you for help? Because a lot of students are shy, so always make yourself approachable. I think that's also key in a successful year. I'm a very strict teacher. I'm a very strict teacher. I'm one of those teachers that, you know, I'm very structured and regimented. I like things done a certain way. I I like time limits on things. I'm very, from the beginning of a lesson to the end of a lesson, I time everything, from testing to activities that students are going to do. Obviously, I give them as much time as possible, but um, within a certain within certain guidelines, because at some point you do have to move on. You have a whole class you're dealing with here. But I do allow those students that need extra time, I give them time to play around. And I think play is very important too. You know, making sure that they understand that we're not only learning in this classroom, but we're also sort of trying to enjoy the curriculum, right? We're trying to get students engaged and interested. Um, and you do, want to do that with your students. Establish how things are going to be for the whole year. That's very critical for the first days of school. You will also want to kind of get to know what some of what the barriers are for your students. So, in addition to kind of getting to know all the good things, what they like, what they dislike, what they did for the summer, um, you do also want to know what they struggle with. So, what I wanted to do was go over a section of my book for English learners, multilingual learners, and you could do this with regular, with all types of students. But it's from my book, The Struggles of Minority English Learners, and it's a section from chapter 2 titled Barriers to Learning. So, I wanted to read a little bit about it. So it says various personal, social, and teaching model barriers were cited by the participants. Participants meaning the people, the kids, the students I interviewed. Students found some work assignments became a barrier to learning because the work was beyond their ability. 2 students cited writing assignments as challenging or difficult. One stated they make you write a lot when asked to identify areas where he had trouble with learning. Another said it's too much work for me. Specifically, having difficulty with English vocabulary made learning difficult. One stated sometimes the words are too big. So you want to find out what they struggle with in the beginning of the year as well, to tailor your curriculum, to tailor your lessons to their ability levels. One of the mistakes that I made as a beginning of the year teacher was everything had to go a certain way. That if this has got to get done, and we're gonna do it, and we're gonna do it whether you like it or not. That was my approach from the very beginning as a new teacher, and it wasn't working for me. And I had to be very honest with myself. I had to reflect. I had to deal with the truth. Okay. That if this is not working, then you, as a teacher, have to sort of step back and say, okay, this is not working. I've got to do this differently. So, in order for you to avoid being put in that situation, let's say if you're a new teacher, is find out what their barriers are. Well, if they don't like writing a lot, then you want to be mindful of that as you go about writing activities. Now, obviously, there are things that they have no choice with. Things that are from tests that are from the district, tests that are from the state. They have to follow those guidelines. But in your classroom, you can kind of tailor things to their ability levels. So if you were thinking about making them write 2 pages on a topic or on a theme from a novel, a book, or lesson, you could have them, write maybe a page and a half, and that would be good. And ask them, is that reasonable? Is that doable? And if most of the time they'll say yes, and then you let them do their thing. I'm very flexible when it comes to instruction, but I also want to make sure that they're prepared for what's next for them. So barriers to learning, barriers to learning are things that you want to get to know about your students. What are things that are going to be barriers to them? Sometimes it's big words, academic words, vocabulary words. So then now as a teacher that you really want to front load them with vocabulary. give them different ways of learning it. Um, and you also want to make sure that they have enough background about what you're teaching them. So if you're teaching them a poetry unit about various different poets, usually you want to group these poets within certain themes. Shakespeare, let's say you were going to teach them a unit on Shakespeare, sonnets or whatnot. A lot of Shakespearean sonnets are, love and, dark things and betrayal, things like that. So you want to sort of get to know, what which themes within the Shakespearean unit you wanted to teach them, which themes they would be interested in. They like a lot of teenagers like the love, the relationship, romantic part of Shakespeare. So if they want to write about that, then that would be something you want to consider as you move through what you're going to deliver to your students and what you're going to have them do in the classroom as the year progresses and as the semester progresses. So again, my main point of this particular video is to remember that rapport is very important, and part of developing that rapport is starting it from the get-go, from the first day of school. And then also just getting to know what your students like and dislike, what you think they're going to struggle with, and find out from them what what they think they're going to struggle with. That way, you kind of tailor your curriculum to that. And something else is you do want to be flexible with a lot of things. So as you're teaching, as you're getting to know your students, if you sense something that may not be working, again, you want to step back and reflect. That's very important. So that's all for today. I think this is my longest video so far. I will be going over, more first semester routine stuff and first semester lesson ideas. But once again, I really appreciate people liking, subscribing to my channel. This is really fun for me, and again, it is something that's new to me. I am getting used to it, and I'm having a lot of fun doing it. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing if you're one of the ones that subscribed. Please share to as many people as possible to learn about, the science of learning and the science of teaching. And thank you for the views. I really appreciate the views. That shows me that you're really interested in the content. But if you are viewing, subscribe. So it's very easy. It's a very easy like. And I'm not doing this for anything but sharing my knowledge, sharing my experience with the world. It is something that is exciting for me. So anyway, thank you again, and so happy to be back home. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you soon.